They say I had it all. Big house, fancy clothes, drivers who opened my doors. I never had to beg for anything. If I wanted it, it showed up. People smiled at me in school not because they liked me, but because they feared the name behind mine, Minister Adewale. My father. He wasn't just any politician. He was the Minister of Social Welfare, the man in charge of the poor. Ernie, right? They called him the father of the people. I called him Dad. To me he was a giant. Bold voice, sharp suits, strong handshake. And when he said, "Son, always stay powerful," I believed him. I didn't ask how he got his power. I didn't care where the money came from. To me he was untouchable. I remember my 13th birthday. There were gold balloons, imported cake, kids from school, journalists with cameras, and him, standing proudly beside me. He whispered, "This is your future, son. A life of respect." But just outside the gate that day, I saw them. They stood silently, staring at the noise and food. A girl and a younger boy, hungry, barefoot. I called a guard to bring them something. But my father stopped me. "Don't get involved," he said. "This is not a charity." I didn't understand it then. But that moment? That was the first crack in the picture-perfect frame. Later that night I couldn't sleep. Their faces stayed with me, eyes full of questions. Eyes that didn't belong at a party like mine. I thought maybe they were just unlucky. I didn't know they were victims. Victims of the man I admired the most. Great. As I grew older, something changed. My father became more distant. He talked less, smiled less, and locked his office door more. But one night, curiosity got the better of me. He was away on a trip. I knew the code to his study. I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted to feel close to him. But what I found, it broke me. Inside the bottom drawer, files, stamped documents, old newspapers, photographs. One file stood out, Hope Orphanage, closed. I flipped through it, confused. Signed papers, fund transfers, a building with broken windows, and then, pictures, children lined up in torn clothes. I froze, because the little girl from my birthday party was in one of them. My breath caught. She wasn't a stranger. She was one of them. One of the orphans. The file said my father was supposed to send 40 million naira to the orphanage. But it never got there. It disappeared into a fake company. A company that I later found out was registered in my mother's name. I wanted to vomit. All those gifts, all those parties. Were they paid for with money meant to feed hungry children? I didn't sleep that night. For the first time in my life, I was ashamed of who I was. Ashamed of my name. I wanted to ask him, "Did you really do this?" But I couldn't. Because part of me already knew the answer. A growing investigation into missing public funds, especially from the Ministry of Social Welfare. And that was just the beginning. Next, the fall, when the house of cards comes crashing down. I used to think nothing could touch us. We were too rich, too connected. My father? He was untouchable. But even the tallest buildings fall when their foundation is built on stolen lives. That week felt like the walls were closing in. Calls came from everywhere. Uncles, friends, TV stations, law firms. My mother stopped wearing makeup. My father stopped speaking. He just stared at the news. Mothers, widows, men holding signs that read "Justice for the Orphans." One woman cried out, "I lost my daughter to hunger. Minister, may God judge you." My heart dropped. The man who once smiled in front of cameras now locked himself in his study. And when the police came knocking, he didn't run. I watched him walk out in handcuffs, and for the first time in my life, he looked small. Not powerful, not proud, just tired. My mother packed 2 bags and left that night. She didn't tell me where she was going. She didn't look back. The staff left too. The house that once held so many voices now echoed with silence. And me? I was just his son. The boy whose name was now poison. Isn't that the minister's son? He's the reason the orphans starved. They weren't wrong. I didn't have answers. Only shame. And a name no one wanted to say. I thought the worst was over. But I was wrong. I was about to become what he once ignored. Becoming what he ignored when the sun hits rock bottom. They seized everything. The cars. The bank accounts. Even the house wasn't ours anymore. At 17 I was alone. With no money. No food. No future. I thought someone would help. A family friend. A pastor. A neighbor. But when your name carries shame, doors close fast. I walked until my legs gave out. Slept in a shed behind someone's shop. Stomach growling. eyes burning. Was this how they felt? The orphans my father ignored? Days passed. I stopped counting. I begged once, then twice. But pride dies slowly. One night it rained hard. I was soaked, shivering, hiding under a bus stop sign. And that's when I saw him. He looked around my age. But his eyes were older. Like someone who had seen too much. He held out the bread. "You look hungry," he said. I nodded. "Why would you help me?" I asked. He replied, "Because someone once helped me. Even when your father didn't." I froze. This boy, he was one of them. One of the orphans. The same ones my father stole from. And yet, he showed me mercy. I didn't deserve kindness. But he gave it anyway. And in that moment, I felt something break inside me. Not pain. Not shame. But awakening. I knew then. I was no longer the minister's son. I was an orphan too. Not by blood. But in truth. The world had taken everything from me. But maybe, just maybe, it was giving me a second chance. That boy, the one who gave me bread. He didn't just walk away. He came back the next day. And the day after that. Not with money. But with purpose. He invited me to the shelter he worked at. "Come," he said. "We help everyone. Even people with broken names." The building was small. The floor had cracks. But the hearts inside. Stronger than any mansion I ever lived in. They welcomed me. No questions. No judgment. Just warmth. I started slow, sweeping floors, washing plates. At first, I couldn't even look the orphans in the eye. But over time, I began to see them not as victims of my father, but as survivors. And in helping them, I began to heal too. Each day I gave a little. Time. Energy. Stories. And one day, I stood in front of them and told the truth. I said, "My name is David Adewale. Yes, that Adewale. My father was the minister who stole your future. But I am not him. And I can't erase what he did. But I can spend the rest of my life trying to do the opposite." They didn't hate me. They saw that I was trying. Years passed. I stayed with the shelter. Built it brick by brick. With donations. With hands. With stories. And I told this story again and again. In churches, on stages, in markets, online. Not to gain pity. But to warn others. Power is dangerous when it loses its heart. Never build your success on someone else's pain. Because karma doesn't miss. Even if it waits a generation. I light one every year. For the ones we lost. For the ones we failed. For the truth my father was buried under money and titles. I was the son of a powerful man. But I became the child of his consequences. And somehow, that led me to purpose. You don't choose what name you're born with. But you can choose what name you leave behind. Power can build a future. Or it can bury one. Tell stories that matter.